Hello, Thunder Wizards. So, we are going to continue with our series of planets in houses for the Arudha Lagna in your Vedic astrological chart. So, today we are going to do Rahu in the third house, the Illusionist. This is a very interesting placement. If you're not familiar with what the Arudha Lagna is, this is something that is found in Vedic astrology. Please do not try and put your Western astrology onto this, your North Node in the third house, because Vedic astrology, we calculate things by 24 degrees difference. So you might have your North Node in a completely different house and sign, so it won't apply. So Rahu is the North Node of the moon, and if you have Rahu in this house, everything I'm saying will apply to you. However, specifically what we want to focus on is the Arudha Lagna. So the Arudha Lagna, short and sweet, is your superpower. It is how people see you. It is not necessarily how you experience yourself, although of course you will have this experience because this is in your chart, but this is specifically something that is, in fact, what will give you success in your life. Your Lagna is your rising sign. It is your perspective on your life. You were screwed into place. That's what Lagna means. You were screwed into place in your rising sign at the moment of your birth. That is your interface with your life as it unfolds, your karma. And so that is why we call it your personality. It's the most important thing. That's why we use it as your sign. But depending on your sign and the specifics of your chart, which has to be calculated, then we find out what your mount is, which is what Aruda means. So it's your vehicle. It's the vehicle for your ascendant. It's the vehicle for your physical body, your physical self, in order to achieve success. Because it is how you are seen. It is your reflection. When you walk into the room, people don't see you as you may think you are. They see you as your reflection. More so than that, they want to see you as your reflection. Now, this is very interesting to note because when it comes to the Aruda, even if the planet and the house are negative, like Rahu is a malefic planet. And so even if on paper, if we took the worst things about Rahu in the third house, for somebody who doesn't have this as their Aruda, this may be their downfall. But if this is your Aruda, it means that people already see you this way, they want to see you this way, and they want to respect this about you. So for instance, Rahu represents thieves, con men, represents all kinds of other things like innovation and revolution and all kinds of deep, powerful introspection and evolution. So it's the trickster. So the trickster, can, depending on, how he is in your chart, can, put you in jail or make you the richest, most influential person in the world. And so, for instance, we have, just to name two, Thomas Jefferson has Rahu in the third house. And I don't know if it's his Aruda or not. I haven't checked that out. Oprah Winfrey, Rahu in the third house. These are very influential people in the world. And we would all say that Thomas Jefferson had a very powerful impact on the world, by being one of the main crafters of the United States Constitution. So this can be a very powerful and influential placement. And so if this is your placement and it's your Arudha Lagna, it means that the things about this placement that could be a problem are actually things that people already see about you and they like you for this. So let's talk about what this is. I called this Rahu in the third house, the Illusionist. So let's first talk about Rahu. So what is Rahu? Rahu is illusion. So you have two nodes. You have the north node and the south node. The north node is Rahu, the south node is Ketu. And Rahu is the head of the snake. You've probably heard me talk about that mythology where the snake got his head cut off as he was drinking the nectar of immortality, and he was caught, pretending to be a celestial deity, and Vishnu chopped off his head. As he was drinking the nectar of immortality, fantasizing about all of his power, all of his success, all of his wives and husbands, and all of his money, and all of the palaces and everything, his head got chopped off, and so all he has now is his obsessions. He can never experience those things. He can never consume enough because his neck is cut off. Everything he eats just falls out of his neck. He never feels his stomach getting full. He represents those things that bring us into manifestation. Without our desires, without our unfulfilled desires, without our ego-based obsessions, we wouldn't incarnate, because Rahu brings unhappiness. Rahu brings a lack of fulfillment. This is why the things that Rahu represents, drugs, alcohol, money, fame, sex, pornography, the sex trade, there's never enough of it. There's never a point where, there's enough prostitutes to make you happy. There's never enough money that will make you feel fulfilled. There's never enough sex. There's never enough, if you're addicted to alcohol, there's never enough alcohol. There's never enough drugs. Never enough influence, popularity. These are things you can never get enough of. They're a disease. Once you get that bug in you, it'll kill you. Give you an example of Michael Jackson, whatever else you may think about him. He was absolutely one of the most influential artists. I mean, I'm not a big fan of his music, but it's clear that he was very influential, extremely talented, and probably the biggest superstar in history. We may not ever see somebody with that much influence over art and music, in our lifetimes. But with all that money, with all of that influence, with all of that talent, with all of the love and respect and the power and the wealth, everything anybody could possibly want, how did he die? He died overdosing on the most powerful opiate that you can't even get your hands on. He's so powerful, he was able to get a doctor to give it to him, and it still killed him. It wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough for him. This is Rahu. Rahu is the illusion. Rahu is quicksand. You step in it, and it pulls you in, and the more that you struggle, the deeper it pulls you in. So this is what Rahu represents on the negative. On the positive, Rahu represents innovation. Rahu represents the good kind of rebellion that rebels against old, staunch rules that no longer apply. Rahu is always seeking to bring innovation and make everything streamlined and better and more effective. There was a line in that movie where, I can't remember it anyway. But it was somebody who was playing Satan, and Satan said, "I am a fan of man," meaning that he went and rebelled against Jehovah to give human beings all of these things that Jehovah wouldn't let them have. He wanted human beings to experience. Rahu is like this. He wants human beings to experience everything. He believes that everybody should have absolutely everything. He himself wants everything. He's ruthless. So on the positive side, he brings transformation, just like Thomas Jefferson did. I don't know how Oprah Winfrey has brought that, but you see where I'm going with this. Now, what is the third house? The third house is the house of short-term communication. It is the house of hands. So that's why we've called this the illusionist. So if somebody has Rahu in the third house, depending on other things in their chart, they may be somebody who can do sleight of hand. They might be a card magician. They might be, who knows what. But they have the ability with their hands to do all kinds of sleight of hand things. Rahu is an illusion maker. And so the third house, when it comes to communication, Rahu is going to speak in ways that will mesmerize the audience and make them believe perhaps something that might not actually be true. Depending on the health of Rahu, he might be a con man, or he might be somebody who takes a relatively boring subject and says, no, let's look underneath the surface and take a look at how magnificent this is. As a salesman, he's going to be able to potentially snow you. He might sell you a bridge, or he might be the one that says, listen, you may not realize it yet, but this piece of technology is going to revolutionize the world. You need this, and he may expose whatever it is that he's selling. If he's a writer, he may want to write about these kinds of things. If his job is to persuade you, he will, he's going to persuade you at all costs. This is a very powerful position because the third house is an upachaya house. It grows over time. Now, the upachaya houses are extremely powerful when you have malefics. Mars, Rahu, Saturn, Ketu. When these malefics come into these upachaya houses, this even gets more empowered. So Rahu is already powerful here because this is a house he loves, because this is the natural house of Gemini, which is his favorite sign. So he loves this house. It's a very energetic sign. It's a very intellectual sign, which means this person is going to be sharp. They are going to have a very sharp mind. And so as they get older, their mind is going to get sharper, which means that do not try and get into an argument with this person. Before you know it, they will have out-argued you, and they may have completely, at the end of it, you're like, how did he do that? We're not even talking about the same subject anymore. This is true. How did I? So if a lawyer has this, forget about it. Try a lawyer. So Rahu is going to get more powerful over time. And so Rahu in this house, this is a house which brings fame for Rahu, because Rahu has I'm going to take this, see what this is. Hello?
Thank you for choosing Marriott Hotels. We would like to inform you that because you have stayed at one of our properties, your telephone number was qualified by our booking system to receive an all-inclusive complimentary stay.
I just got another spam from another phone number for the exact same thing. This is Rahu. Rahu selling things over the phone. So here you go. Rahu showed up for the reading here. This is one of the things that Rahu does. You have just won $1 billion prize for such and such. Click 1. Oh, and we have to double check it. We have a small administrative fee of $1,000, but you're going to get $1 million. And we need to verify who you are. So just give us your social security number. It's just for us to check who you are. But look, that $1 billion is coming to you. That's Rahu. So that would have been Rahu in the third house. He might, if Rahu is not impacted very well, that might be what he does. But Rahu has 3 aspects in this house. He's got the same aspect as Jupiter. He's got aspect on the 7th house of relationships. So this means that Rahu is going to want to influence your relationships, which may mean foreigners. It may mean you might marry somebody who is from a different country, a different religion, a different ethnicity. But he's going to bring that, Rahu represents foreign things or alternative things outside of the norm. And so your 7th house is going to be impacted by that. He's looking at the 7th house, which has to do with business as well, because it represents your connection with other people. So he's going to give you power to communicate to large groups in terms of families, that kinds of thing. Families and friends and, even business. Then he focuses directly opposite him to the ninth house, which is the house of the temple, the house of spirituality, and the house of deep knowledge and deep study. So Rahu has an interest in these things. But because Ketu is automatically opposite him, this means that in a previous life, you wanted to master everything having to do with spirituality. Perhaps you were a monk, perhaps you were a nun, perhaps you were a priest, perhaps you lived in an ashram. And so in that lifetime, Rahu was there wanting to experience everything having to do with spirituality. And now you're like, yeah, I did that. I did that. But this is your power base. So Rahu is getting all of his power from where Ketu sits. If Ketu sits in the ninth house, it means he's getting his power from all of his knowledge and mastery in spirituality. So it's gone from a very spiritual place to a very practical, physical place, because the third house is about communication and it's also about business. This could be a place for business moguls. So Rahu, when he communicates, he will either use spirituality for his own ends. So he might present himself as a spiritual communicator when in reality he's only thinking about himself. Or, life is a hologram. He may actually be talking about spiritual things, and he might be saying to himself that he's going to profit from all of that, even if it benefits you. Again, selling technology, perfect example. Apple, the iPhone revolutionized everybody's life, made everybody's life better, and Apple gets seriously rich off of it every time that you advance your technological capacity through their products. Okay, so he also looks at the 11th house, of gains. So Rahu loves the 11th house. Here he has an aspect on the 11th house, which means that his communication will always be focused on his personal gain. Again, it doesn't make him a bad person, although it might. Depending on everything, it might make him, an absolute con man that no matter what he says, it's only for his own best interest, and he sees you as a mark, and your job is only what he can get from you. So this could be definitely a place for a con man and an illusionist, a pickpocket, a card thief, who knows what. But whatever it is, his ability to communicate and sell is going to be, this is what a confidence man does. A confidence man gains your confidence. Confidence man never steals from you. A confidence man gets you to want to give you the money. Bernie Madoff. Wouldn't surprise me if he had Rahu in the third house. I don't know. I haven't looked at his chart, but Bernie Madoff said it very clearly. He said, I never took their money. In fact, I told them never to give me more than what they could afford to lose. Their greed is what drove them to it. And so, even though he knew that he was lying to people and stealing from them, even though he knew that, it's still true. This is a confidence man. You come to them and they'll say, yeah, I have this thing. Oh, you know what? I shouldn't talk about it. I shouldn't talk. I shouldn't have opened my mouth. I can't talk about it. It's too dangerous. Never mind. You're like, no, what is it? No, I can't. I can't. No, please just tell me. Promise you won't tell anybody. I can't, I can't take you in on this because it's just too, no, tell me about it. Okay, well, there's this new thing, brand new, blah, blah, blah. And if you get in right now, every 1 cent will get you $1 million, but it's technically against the rules, but there's this loophole and there are these bad people and, they're stealing money and we're just stealing money from them and giving it back to people. But I can't get you involved. You're my friend. And no, that's it. I can't. And you'll be like, no, here's $10,000. Let me go to the bank. Here's $20,000. This is my kid's school tuition money. Take it, please take it. I'm putting a gun to your head. You have to, this is when you can, talk a mafioso into putting a gun to your head saying, take my $1 million, right? This is the worst of Rahu in the third house. The best, Thomas Jefferson, assuming you appreciate whatever Thomas Jefferson said or did. So this is the Arudha Lagna. Now, bear in mind, this can have a lot of negativity to it because Rahu, there's always this chance Rahu is going to bring the worst. Because Rahu brings misery wherever he goes. Even if Rahu gives you, fame and fortune and money, it will never be satisfying. That's just the way it is. And so the real lesson of Rahu is, this whole life is an illusion. And when you understand that, you allow yourself to let Rahu take you wherever he goes, and then ultimately you just don't let it affect you. There was that movie a long time ago, that Star Trek movie, really long time ago, where Spock allows himself to go through this transformation where he's supposed to feel all of his feelings and feel his pain and all of that. And he goes through that, and every Vulcan who goes through that, they become these very emotional creatures. And then Spock goes through it, and after he's done, and he's still himself. And people are like, why haven't you changed? He said, because I don't need that. I don't need that experience. I don't remember what he said. This is the lesson of Rahu, is that if you have the ability, for instance, if Jupiter is sitting in Sagittarius in the 9th house, staring back at Rahu, then Rahu will give that message. Rahu will give the message of, it's all illusion, and the only thing that matters here is your spirituality. And so even if Rahu is going to still do his thing and communicate and drive you towards wanting to be rich and famous, there will always be this awareness that, this is really empty. There's nothing here. So if you have other aspects that, in there that don't give that benefit, if Rahu's not being aspected by a benefic, and if he's not in a happy place, then he could be, the worst con man you've ever seen. But getting back to the Aruda, this is your superpower, which means that even if people see that you are a con man or that you are an illusionist, they are going to like that about you. So for instance, if this is the placement of somebody and it's not their Aruda, it may be, hey, watch out for that guy. That guy is a con man. You cannot trust him. He's only interested in himself. But if it's your Aruda, then people are going to go, man, that guy, you got to watch it. That guy is slick. I mean, he can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge, but you know what? He's so interesting. Let's hire him. Let's make him the head of sales. Let's make him the head of internet marketing. And then you will be rewarded for that ability because people see that is your superpower, and this is your karmic destiny to use this power to help people. This is what people don't understand about the Aruda. The Arudha Lagna is your karmic destiny. It is your superpower. And if your superpower is to be an illusionist, even if it is literally to be a magician, then your job is to use that to empower people, even if that's through entertaining people. A good example of this is there are people who have been con men and thieves, and then they go to jail, and then they come back, and then they spend their whole life exposing the tricks of con men. This would be if Jupiter were aspecting it and saying, okay, now you're going to take this power of yours and you're going to use it to educate people about fake spiritualists or fake whatever. Okay? So this is your superpower. If this is your Arudha Lagna, then you have to embrace it. You may either have used it negatively in the past, or you may feel embarrassed about it. You may know this about yourself and you don't like it and you try and hide it. If you try and hide that you are an illusionist or a con man, what will happen is people will see it anyway, and they will know that you're lying, and they won't trust you. They won't trust you as far as they can spit. But if you walk around dressed like a magician and you tell everybody, I'm an illusionist, better watch out, I will steal your watch from your watch, and if you let people see this about you, they will love you for it. And this will be your fame, this will be your power in your career, and this will help you socially as well. Okay? So, those are some things about if you have Rahu in the third house as your Arudha Lagna. If you don't know what your Aruda is, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Also, subscribe, hit the bell button so that when I do your Arudha Lagna, you will be notified. And, this is what I do when I give readings. I give a very specific style of Vedic astrological readings, which only focuses on the things that you can always use in your life. You can know about your Arudha Lagna and make it work for you when you're 10 years old or 100 years old. It doesn't matter what planetary transit you're going through or what stage or all the other shifting that goes on. None of that matters with the stuff that I give. The stuff that I give, if you get one reading from me, you won't need another one because those things will work for you for the rest of your life. This is why I love talking about the Arudha Lagna. Once I figured out what my Aruda was, it absolutely revolutionized my life. So that's it for me. Next time we're going to talk about Ketu in the third house, and that will be very interesting itself. All right, talk to you soon.